So I'm here to talk about energy, but I called it convergence. And I want to start by saying it's a blend of ideas and technology. So first, the extraction, conversion, and use of energy is the single largest cause of air and water pollution in the world, as well as emissions that affect our global climate. The amount of water used in the United States for energy, the entire cycle, electricity and fuels, is equal or more than we use to grow our food. And together both use most of our water. It affects our national security. You know that. And of course, our single largest component of our trade debt. So energy is very important. But in fact, what is happening right now is technology innovation is converging to change the way we will use energy that will not require hardly any water and will become personal as transportation and communications has come. And I wanted to talk to you about that. So we look at an electric grid and we think of central station power plants on the left. And that's where we spend trillions of dollars to build plants using coal, natural gas, nuclear, a tiny bit of oil now, and they run on transmission lines and then to distribute to substations and then to distribution lines and then to buildings and infrastructure and manufacturing plants. And that's starting in the 1850s, that's sort of what evolved, and it made a lot of sense. And that's pretty much what we did with telecom. Telephones, we had one telephone company when I was a child, when I had hair on my head. And we had a central station, and then it went to substations, and then it went into buildings, wires. So what happened is 32 years ago, or 33 years ago, that it was a picture of my first phone. People thought I was crazy. It was the size of a wine bottle. It had horrible communication because there were very few cell towers and there was only in 5 cities in the United States of America. The head of our only telephone company said cellular was a whim. Who would spend 15 times more for a unit of communication in a country with 99.9% quality service? Well, guess what? I think everybody would, correct? So here's this telephone, and then guess what happened? We moved it from a phone to the first smartphone 23 years ago. That's what it looked like, pretty chunky. Monochrome, not very fun. But think of this, convergence, the folks talking about portable communication, and now some portable, portable thinking, it's portable data. And then look what we have here. This is the first built-in camera 15 years ago. So now we see the cell phone for communication with thinking and now has a camera. Now, independently was going on some more thinking and miniaturization. When I grew up, I had long-playing records. Then I went to 8-track tapes. Then I went to cassette tapes. Then I went to CDs. Then I went to DVDs. And now I'm doing MP3 players. My smartphone now has that MP3 player in it as well. So now I have communications, data of some sort, I have pictures, and I have music. Not done yet. Now we have the phone with the first GPS in 2001. So now I can go to MapQuest on my phone. Now it's merged in. not in a separate entity, and have what I want. And so finally, we are to the modern context of smartphones, of iPhones. So the goal here is that what we've seen in communications is a convergence of ideas and technology. And frankly, we could have 5 of those things, or 8 of those things, depending on how many things you have, how much convergence, in 8 different devices. Of course, now we think that would be silly. Why would we do that? So the great thinkers of our time, I'm using McKinsey here, because it's a great, pretty colorful chart, said, you know, we have some trends that are happening. They're going to transform our society. And, you know, I want you to take a look at these trends and see how wonderful. I mean, there's renewable energy, there's advanced materials. The reason we can put wind turbines in the water, and now we're having tidal and wave technology in the water, is because of the material science revolution. Okay, water is a very unforgiving medium. It has salt and acid and animals that stick to it, pit it. It's tough, it's 700 times more dense than air. So we are in a material revolution. Energy storage, you call them batteries, but this whole idea, I work right in my field, I work with 38 different kinds of batteries, totally different chemistries and materials. And in fact, I brought one to show you. This is one kind of battery. This happens to be a lithium-ion battery that we're putting in walls of buildings now to store the solar energy. Okay, not the big batteries you're thinking of. This is more powerful than a big square battery, by the way. So it can fit between the studs of a building. So there's a material science revolution going on. The mobile internet, Internet of Things, cloud technology, all of that is the way we communicate, think, and visualize with technology. All of this is integrating into energy as we speak. So there's my office building in Arlington, Virginia. It has solar roofing shingles. It has the most insulating glass in the world. It has a wind turbine. It has a fuel cell in the back, all commercial, by the way. It has a smart battery bank, which we'll talk about. It has LED lights. That building is a convergence of technology. It takes no electricity from the grid. It doesn't need to. And by the way, I have more gadgets, I bet, than you have in your home in that building. I'm a big gadget person. But the fact is, the reason I can do that is this material convergence, this energy convergence. It's building materials, insulation, smart windows to keep the hot air in during the winter and the cool air in the summer, and allows me to use a little bit of electricity to heat or cool the building. Between my home and that office building is an awning. And that material, the lights you see, are powered by this. This is thin film photovoltaics, but in a way you've never seen it. It's commercial. It is light produced sensitive ink. This comes off of Fuji industrial inkjet printers, and the ink produces the electricity. The ink. So I have that in between 2 panes of plastic, and we're using them for awnings around the United States to covered walkways and bus stops to produce power for lighting. Well, this ink can be on the, not now, but soon, will be on the sides of the south side of buildings, and of course on the rooftop of buildings. And by the way, I can print it in any color and any pattern. So we can really get artistic with our electric production. By the way, no water, no moving parts, all right? So material science, there's a change of what's going on. So convergence, let's talk again. This college had lighting that, that would glare out the library. The morning sun would come up. They built it on a hill, and they didn't want to put blinds. And so what they ultimately used was electrochromic glass with 12 volts of current and a little rheostat. I can turn this glass to crystal clear or actually pure black. This is just a shade down. And so I have a glass running on 12 volts of electricity, so solar panels and batteries easy to keep glare out, actually keep heat out, give you some privacy. They're on buildings now all over the world. Material science saves energy plus other things. That is the battery bank in my office building. There are 30 companies now making standardized, modular, web-enabled battery banks. So this interfaces with my phone system. I can go on the internet every day and see how much solar and wind I've gotten, how full the batteries are, how much has gone to the building, how much money I've saved, how much pollution I've saved. 2 a.m. in the morning, it dials out and does a diagnostic protocol. And 2 years ago, I got a call from the company, battery number 4, twice as hot as the other batteries, half the charge. Let's change it out before there's a problem. How neat is that? A smart thinking battery. I never thought of it. Wonderful convergence. By the way, just this is a convergence of material science, of information technology, of internet and cloud technology in a unit which is a convergence into the energy side, okay? Now we have all these monitoring systems. We have solar, battery monitoring, but all these technologies. I can go on the internet now with an app and see what's going on in pretty colored pictures. I don't need to be an engineer. I can see how everything, if it's all green, guess what? It all works. If it's yellow, some of those components are working outside of the operational parameters, which mean over time, I should expect problems with them. And if they're red, I better call that service contractor real quick and get it repaired. And all of that is web-enabled with smart sensors, thin film technologies. And again, it is all internet-driven. Now remember, internet-driven doesn't necessarily mean a cybersecurity problem. Internet-driven here is just meaning I can see what's going on. So it's not like Osama bin Laden's cousin can come in and shut me down. It just means that I have a window on how it's operating, that I can understand. I do projects all over the world. I need to have it so that a person in any language, in any culture, with any level of education, can look at what's going on and intuitively understand what this means to the world, to their world. And we are beginning now to integrate these smart buildings and these smart technologies with security systems. Wireless cams, but also most of your traditional security systems, what are they? Sensors, batteries, wires. What's all these on-site clean energy systems? Sensors, batteries, wires, on-site generator. So in the end, they all interface with each other. And so the buildings of this decade and next decade are integrating energy, telecom, security, more convergence. And most of the projects I do keep telephone and internet Wi-Fi systems going on because we need more than phones. We need to have internet and data. And then, of course, the big companies in the internet field are saying we want to be in the building and home of the user. We want to be in energy. And you're seeing in the market as with this Nest thermostat, that you can, on your smartphone, sense, put your temperature up, put your temperature down. They now have Wi-Fi enabled fire alarms and carbon monoxide alarms and natural gas alarms, so you can get a little text message that you have smoke in your basement, or you have water in your basement, or you have a natural gas leak in your basement, and it's all in the market happening now. And then we have these batteries in electric vehicles. You already know hybrid vehicles, and now we're getting into electric vehicles. We're starting even to get into electric bicycles. China has 6 million electric bicycles. We have about 100,000 here in the United States, but that's going to be tenfold in a handful of years. So the whole idea of how we impact transportation, communications, security, and energy are all converging together, just like that cell phone I talked to you about. But we are not done, because we are also in a renaissance on how we use data. We have supercomputers now that can be tied together, and we can analyze things in intuitive ways that, again, heretofore have been impossible. I can go on any building in the world and with a host of companies look at the top of that building, okay, and that with Google Maps or equivalent, and I can overlay on top of that building where the best places on that roof is to put the solar energy. And I can plot it over seasons and time of day. I can look what else is on the roof. Happens to be a lot of stuff on the roof. We have communication systems, security systems, skylights, a lot of stuff on roofs. So now I can get 20% more energy out of a system by having the capability to plot data on that roof. And we can do that now all over the world with solar, wind, and hydro. This company that has 40 PhD hydrologists, oceanographers, meteorologists, supercomputers can show anywhere on Earth, latitude and longitude, where the wind is and how high the wind turbine has to be to maximize that wind. I have very funny stories on that in Africa, telling the locals, we're going to put a wind turbine up, and they're looking at me saying, there's no wind. And I go, well, 120 feet up there, there's a ton of wind. And they look at you like you are crazy. I am crazy, but I'm happy to tell you that those wind turbines blow like crazy as well. So what is happening, I steal other people's charts, I love that, lovingly. I mean, they allow me to, but because this is a colorful one. But the point of the chart is interoperability. When you think of that smartphone we started with, the modern one, with all those things, data, the telephone itself, the MP3 player, the camera, the GPS, it works pretty seamlessly. Yeah, we have glitches, but pretty much it's pretty seamless. What we're trying to do in the buildings and in our grids is we're on a move right now to do the exact thing, same thing. It's called the smart grid, but it's really what we've been doing all along. It's bringing a range of technologies that relate to each other, that are converging around different sites and systems, and make them seamless, make them more than the sum of their parts. So the grids of the future will have a lot more that's local. You will have in your community and in your buildings solar and wind, combined heat and power, waste heat, small hydro, free flow hydro, little turbines in the tidal and wave if you're on the shore, Your waste will be anaerobically digested and used for heating and in your stove. Same kind of methane gas. You will have battery storage of all types and other kinds of storage like flywheels. And you will have a whole range of these technologies, all sizes, between the big generation along the transmission lines, at the substation, along the distribution lines, and in your building, your home, your school, your business. It's already happening. It's very, very exciting. When I started in this field, all these technologies, probably about 200 million in sales worldwide in the early 1980s. Now, it's $500 billion. So it's amazing. So we're on this little nest. We're on this little planet. I got to be good friends with Senator John Glenn. I worked in the Senate for 9 years in the 70s. And I asked him, coming from a coal state, Ohio, why he was so supportive of all these new technologies. And he said, you know, when I was an astronaut, he says, I would peer out in space, and he was our first astronaut. And he said, you know, you would see darkness. And he said, I believe there's life on other planets, but they don't look anything like us. That could be good. But anyway, I digress. So he says, and then I would look at Earth. And I realized for the first time in my life that that is our nest. That is it. And we better do something to protect that nest. This is really it. So I leave this thought with you, that we are on the verge of a whole range of new technology convergence. We have to make sure the rules allow it to happen, because the old folk who have the old ways, the dial phones, you know, didn't want cellular to happen. And I can surely say that those in the traditional energy delivery field are not anxious for this to happen. There's actually no stopping it. No technology stagnates. Technology evolves along with human beings. Even the first fork looks extremely different of what it had today. So I want to leave you with a couple of things on talking about convergence. So window glass for commercial buildings. The solar is in the glass, produces electricity. Solar electric panels that also heat water at the same time. Convergence of two technologies. So rather than I have on my house, I have a solar water heater and then solar electric panels, here's a company that puts them all together. Convergence. Use of solar for roofing shingles. Why have a shingle when your shingle can produce electricity at the same time? And that's what I have on my office building. But more importantly, I feel like soupy sales today. We have 7.2 billion people on this planet. When I was young, again with hair, there were less than 3 billion. So in one lifetime, we've gotten 4 billion more people. 1.6 billion of them have no electricity. 1.7 billion of them have electricity less than 10 hours a day, and usually when they don't need it. All right? They live off of dung and kerosene, all right? Which is, by the way, when you're burning it in your little hut, let me tell you, is not great for you. So here's one technology, one company that is addressing this problem, convergence of technology. They had developed first of all, a plastic light. It's like a beach ball. It's actually sophisticated technology. It is plastic. We all know plastic's been around a long time, but can be really durable and against ultraviolet rays, heat, sand, so it will last. They have a solar cell on it. They have LED lights underneath. They have thin film battery between the two. 1 hour of charging, 10 hours of light. Thousands and thousands being sold in Africa and South Asia. In the US market, they sell it for camping, but you can even have colored lights for your home. The convergence of technology, smart plastic laminates, thin photovoltaic cells, LED lighting chips, thin film batteries, affordable by the poorest people on the planet. And let me tell you, to see and work with people that for the first time have electric lighting, it's astounding. To be able to use these technologies for the first time to have clean water is spiritual. To see them be able to have refrigeration for the first time, stunning. To see them be able to set up micro businesses and actually create wealth, it's as close as you can be to God. So the point being, it's not the technology. Technology is just an enabler. But everything we do requires energy. Everything we do. Whatever we eat, whatever we do, including here today. So I leave you with this thought. We are in a sea change, and it requires an understanding of our planet, and understanding that the rules of the game need to change and nurture this innovation, and that the future will be as exciting and dramatic as the internet and the cellular has brought to us today. Thank you for hearing me out.